It's the 260 Podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m., highlighting all Indiana sports, featuring guests from the 260 area code and beyond. Live on YouTube every Thursday at 7 p.m. Just search the 260, also available anywhere you find your podcasts. And remember, when searching, there are no zeros in the 260. It's the 260 Podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m.
It feels like we're taking the crown. It feels like we were born to be champions. We were born to be champions. We were born to have a name in the lights, 'cause we're taking a ride to the top, to the top. Born to be champions. We were born to be champions.
It's the 260 Podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m., highlighting all Indiana sports, featuring guests from the 260 area code and beyond. Live on YouTube every Thursday at 7 p.m. Just search the 260, also available anywhere you find your podcasts. And remember, when searching, there are no zeros in the 260. It's the 260 Podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m.
Yes, this is the 260. I'm Joe Walburn. I'm joined by the man they call the mayor of the 260, Dave Reichert. And we've got Matt Brumbaugh riding shotgun with us. And guys, I'll tell you what, number 22. And man, it's going to be an awesome one. If you love baseball in the 260, we've got the great Mike Nutter coming up next on this, so I'm excited to hear. I tell you what I love about minor league baseball is just the grassroots marketing that goes on. So I'm excited to get the energy with Mike Nutter coming up. And remember, you can find us on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. And remember, there's no zeros in the 260 unless you're pushing full padded flag football. But we won't start sonar. Okay, don't start tonight. But Dave, let's not pick fights. That's right, Denise. Let's behave ourselves. So let's start. I want to start with Officer Payne, Dave, and I want to talk about, there was a tweet that came out with Officer Payne, and if you don't mind setting the record straight with that.
Well, Dean Pentazzi put out a tweet that was pretty misleading, saying James Payne was hanging it up.
Yeah, which he's not, correct.
And so I texted him right away. I go, dude, you're hanging up the whistle? And he goes, no. And that's not, James, very nice person. He's like, that's was misleading, to say the least. He's being taking a job back home down in Kentucky, and he's going to be director of communications, and he's still going to be reffing in Kentucky and Southern Indiana.
Well, I was hoping what we talked about.
So
with
he
that
can still do his state championships.
Okay, yeah, he's fantastic. I mean, the guy is the GOAT. I was hoping he was hanging it up for that congressional run, right, Denise?
Right.
Remember we talked about that?
he was
I
like
was getting out. Denise, I came into the
$100,000.
office and Denise said, I came in the office and Denise said, "You better go grab your checkbook and write that check for that." I tell you what, man. All joking aside, I almost put a tweet out, but I'm like, nah, I better not. I was gonna put a tweet out that's like, congratulations on all the greatness over the years. Now, if you need a campaign, you need somebody to help you with your campaign, and we're gonna go raise some money. Let's go make that congressional run. Remember James Payne bringing pain to Washington, D.C.? And all joking aside, though, if he ran as an independent candidate, he would be your next congressman.
would.
But you know
Yes,
what?
he would.
Thank you for clearing that up. I mean, he's done so much. And you know what? Congratulations to your brother out there, James, on the
congratulations.
the great move up with the work and the career advancement. And I think he'll always be reffing, or he'll always be involved in sports somehow.
It's
Don't you think, Matt?
it's a tough loss here for the Fort Wayne area.
It is. I'm sorry to see him go.
He's the best. I mean, just the way he communicates.
Guys. I'm sorry. He's director of police and communications.
Oh yeah. So
Well, that makes sense because but like you've always
back.
said, Brummy, he has the ability to connect with people. So,
The
not
kids,
only
I
the
mean-
police, but the communications.
Community affairs.
Yeah, that's the guy that if something goes down
the
or
face.
something pops off in the community, he would be the perfect guy to go and put the fire out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, director of police and community affairs director.
Yeah.
Still will be blowing the whistle in southern Indiana and Kentucky.
Let's go.
Always
Yeah.
repping the 260, all love.
Getting a little closer back to those roots of Murray, isn't that right? So
Yeah.
that's awesome. And I tell you what, thinking about him refereeing games and all that. Week from tomorrow night.
Go time.
Man, it's
Go
week
time.
1, high school football. And I tell you, every
And
year,
next
man.
week we're going to have on Coach Bryce from Blackhawk and hear everything he's doing.
Woo, man, that's you talk about started from the bottom.
Right.
Now we're
26
here.
guys.
Wow, and it's hard to. I tell you what, you start those programs, Brummy. You
It's rough.
You gotta get those guys to buy in, don't
They
you?
got to buy in right away. I mean, when I went into Northrop there, 2011, I mean, it had some down times, and I had to get that thing turned around and
Sure.
kind of build back. And the first thing I did is, see what kind of buy-in I was getting from players. And if it wasn't there, it was pretty much bye-bye. It was time to move on to the next set.
His
Do you-
biggest problem that he said, and I think Matt heard the phone call, basketball kills him.
Yep.
Well, basketball
Yeah.
kills them, and you just need the depth. When we went down and did the 8-man football game, I was really impressed with about 4 or 5 guys they had playing at 8-man football. Now everybody's playing both ways, and it was kind of interesting to watch
He had
it.
19 that he thought was going to come back, and only 7 did.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, it's grueling. It's tough, and I guess you have to really rely upon some of your senior leadership,
Absolutely.
don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, and that'll get you through. I mean,
Yeah.
there's going to be, ups and downs, and, there's going to be some pains,
Sure.
growing pains. But
Sure.
at the end of the day, you got to believe in the Blackhawk Christian way. I mean, let me tell you something.
It's worked in every other
Basketball,
sport.
baseball,
Had it,
I mean,
Dave?
it keeps moving.
I mean, it's worked in every other sport. So it's going to be interesting to see. I tell you
I
what.
really thought my thought was I didn't even know about Bryce when it was first talked about. I was like, it could grow quickly because the kids that are at Snyder that are on 3rd and 4th string. They look right
might
across,
be able to pop over there, but
and he goes,
Nah, not going to happen.
that ain't going to happen.
not going to happen, huh?
because they're
Too
on-
big of a wait list
It's a wait list right now.
to get into
He goes, they might,
Blackhawk
remember,
Christian.
did you say they
really?
were
Yeah.
Matt?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
so
he
the
said
wait
the
list
wait
is
list-
so long,
the wait
so
list
he
is-
can't
yeah.
peel anybody off.
No.
And
Wow.
they cap at a certain amount.
Really?
They
So
said
you
75 kids per class.
So you are
300 they can only have 300
so you are committed to who's walking the halls
Absolutely.
right now.
right now.
Right now.
Yep.
Well, you know what? I tell you what. Good luck to them. And I tell you, of those 26 kids, think about how much you love your kids getting off the bus with 26
Yeah.
kids. You talk about, hey, man, you're going to play offense, defense, special teams. I mean,
they might want to do a documentary on that one too.
How about that, Sona?
Iron Man for sure.
Iron Man
Iron
football.
Man
You're
for
going to
sure.
have to do. They're not going to like this.
there's
The
a school-
conditioning. You're going to have to condition like crazy because you literally are playing the
Yep.
whole game.
There's a school outside of Muncie called Monroe Central.
Yes.
And they did this about it's probably been 7-8 years ago now. And it was a little farm school. Never had football. But all of a sudden they started progressing a little bit, and here came all the Muncie kids.
Yes.
And now their program's pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah,
So I
Monroe
just
Central.
assumed
Yeah.
that happened at Blackhawk, but he goes, there is a cap.
Yeah,
We
it's
have
going
to
to take
build
some
from.
time, and it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you talk about. I would love to see a documentary of just capturing the first moments of that
Yeah.
because that is absolutely.
I mean, I just
starting from the
you
bottom.
paint the picture, and it sort of goes like Field of Dreams every time you talk about it when you did that game.
Oh,
Joe.
we did that game. We got down there, and
No
and
goalposts.
There was no goalpost, and I looked at Jeff Mahoney, and I said, "This can't be right." And I got there early. So I always like to get to the game early because to be prepared and to kind of make sure I know what's going on. There was nobody there, and I'm like.
And you said
Okay, I know I'm in the
corn
right
around the
place.
field.
There was corn all around the field, no goalpost. There was this little shitty, and I guess it's YouTube, huh? Sonar,
You're good.
But there was this little terrible like press box wooden that I thought, do I want to climb in that? Because I'm about 245 pounds. Am I gonna tilt?
Sink?
Am I gonna tilt this thing? And then we had the bee's nest where. There was a bee's nest swarming in there. I didn't think anybody had been in that press box in 10 years, but here we are, and we're going to make the best of it. Get the camera, set the camera up, and got the notes, and all of a sudden, people started showing up. And what was interesting about the 8-man football was just the strategies. You had to open field tackle. And I think that's the toughest thing on defense is the ability of that far side
just back-
corner to make an open field tackle. 8-man football.
It's like being in backyard football.
Yeah.
It's backyard football, and it was just like open field tackle. There's no extra points. The game just felt wide open. But in
So you go
those
for two all the
three-man
time.
lines, in those three-man lines, there was a little bit of physicality to it. Guys played both ways. I mean, I enjoyed it. And we saw some diamonds in the rough that I thought, wow, man, that kid can play good, and I was impressed with Blackhawk. Blackhawk had some kids that were physical, played hard, and I could see how they can make that jump. It's just the depth, and you just hope you just hope the first few weeks, if you roll off the bus with 26 kids, I'm just hoping I'm not losing a couple dogs the first few weeks,
Right.
and I just want to,
But
my
you gotta
message
figure
is.
they're going to be playing the same situation.
Yeah, my message
Sure.
is we got to compete, baby. I just, all I ask is to compete, as you always say with the baseball, Brummy. Let's get off, let's compete, let's play hard, and let's see where it goes. And I think if you begin to if you can capture some highlights of games, get, Ben Johnson's a master at the marketing with the social media and the highlights. Get those out, get some momentum. All of a sudden, a couple kids in school might be like, you know what, man, it looks kind of like
it's a
fun.
buy-in. It's a
Coaches
buy-in.
are too late to
It's
come
what
out.
Brummy always says.
The buy-in.
It's the buy-in, and if you get a buy-in, then all of a sudden it's exciting. And I think we'll look back 5-10 years and say, yeah, it's gonna make it.
I'm looking
It's gonna
forward
be.
to the show. Like I told him, what he was telling us ago, that's exactly what we want to talk about.
That's what we want
Yeah.
to talk about. I
We wanna
want to
know
talk
what you're
about
going through.
what you're going through, the nuts and bolts, the it hasn't been that hot this year in August, but just the tough dog days of August, and having that second practice on the two-a-day, we are motivating these kids. Hey, man, we're 26 strong, baby. We'll take anybody on, and you know what? You guys, they're going to hang a picture of you guys in the school because you are going to be the first. And every day we go out to practice, I would turn the music up, started from the bottom, now we're here. And I'd play it every single day, and I would wear that 26 with pride and see what happens. And you know what?
And there's rumors, like I said a couple of shows ago, I think, that the following year they're going to ACAC. And
They should.
That's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough. You got to get your numbers up to. You got to get up to
Adams
about 35, 40. But you got to
Adams
have some
Central.
dogs. Yeah, you got to have some dogs to play in that.
Woodland.
But
But you think about that.
Heritage.
You talk. I mean, you look at St. Francis when they were, from the bottom up.
That's
I mean,
exactly
Kevin
right.
Donnelly
That's-
comes in and they were getting
I was the
77 nothings.
Yeah,
and
I was the same
just getting it put
situation.
on them, and all of a sudden,
It turned.
you just keep building
Keep
and
digging.
building and building, and next thing you know, man, it becomes a powerhouse.
Speaking about
Matt, is IWU in their 5th year now?
Yeah, I believe so.
And they took out St. Francis.
Yeah, I mean, they're
It's the premier team.
now they had a different situation. They which I didn't think was the greatest move in the world. They scheduled away from those guys.
Yeah.
And again, it worked. I mean,
Yeah.
now all of a sudden they're becoming a powerhouse. They got all the bells
they're
and whistles
closer to
down
Indianapolis.
there. Yeah.
we'll talk about pride. a group of individuals that's lost a little bit of pride are some of these NFL running backs. I mean, you look around and you
Instagram
talk
came
about
out.
a position that's devalued, and obviously here in this state, we still have the problem with Jonathan Taylor. I have a solution to that. There's a kid that plays for the San Francisco 49ers. He's third string. His name is Jordan Mason. Came out of Georgia Tech about 4 or 5 years ago. He had limited carries last year, about 50, 60 carries, averaged 6 yards a carry. If I'm the Colts and I ship out a 4th or 5th round pick to the Niners will move him because the Niners got two kids in
McCaffrey.
front. They got guys in front of them.
Sure.
Ship out a 4th, 5th round pick, get him in camp early. This guy is dynamic, 6 yards a carry last year. And I say to Jonathan Taylor, I said it's been nice, and I ship him out if I can for a 2nd or 3rd, and I deal
take
with the
it.
cancer. And you know what? Tell it, Brummy. I mean, just
the
tell about.
disappointing thing with Jonathan Taylor is, okay, back a couple months ago, you said, hey, I signed my contract. I'm good. I'm going to roll, and I'm going to be a leader on this team.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you get a new
Month later.
agent. The new agent kind
it's
of
the cancer
starts
of the
playing
agent.
the game.
Yep,
and
it's the cancer.
And I was, watching Pat McAfee the other day.
Yeah.
And they sent him. They pretty much sent him back and said, "We don't want you around.
Don't
You're
want
a
you around. It's
cancer."
cancer.
And that's
And
a
now
problem.
the ankle's hurting. Huh?
Yeah.
Is that true or?
Yeah, but I mean,
doubt
it's a disappointing situation because you have guys buying in. You got Steichen in there now, the new coach. He's got a new system,
Yeah.
and they're trying to build. The
And it's
camaraderie.
such an important year with the rookie quarterback.
Yeah, and he said, and not only that, but he goes the lineman. He goes, Ryan Kelly, the center. He goes, he's got a love for the game again.
Sure,
because
sure.
because Shane Steichen's brought that into him.
There's
And you
3
go-
major running backs right now that tried to play the system, and they're not even in camps.
No.
Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, and Kareem Hunt. Now, Brummy thought Kareem got signed by the Colts. That did not happen.
It didn't go through.
But those are 3 major names.
It's interesting because when you look back, I thought Elliott had maybe the worst contract in NFL history. That was a terrible contract, and Jerry Jones got pushed into that because Marshall Faulk was involved in that, which I always thought that was kind of odd that they would take financial advice from Marshall Faulk. But Todd Gurley had a terrible contract with
Yeah.
the knee issue,
Yeah.
and then another terrible deal where an agent just totally did a terrible job of advising a player was Le'Veon Bell. Remember Le'Veon
Yeah.
Bell?
Yeah.
He didn't want to play for
And he
$18
regrets it.
million a
He
year.
regrets it now.
And he was down parking jet skis in South Beach because he
Yeah.
wouldn't play for $18
Yeah.
million a year, and he regrets it. So it's just amazing. It's such a passing game. I mean, you
Yeah.
see all you can
has
you can
been
see
building
how
for
good the
years.
NFL is. When you look at the NFL, you look at who's the quarterback, who's the coach, and who's the GM. And that's really what you look at. And you're right. You guys are right. That position has just been it's just not as important, and you can roll out. And I think the Bears drafted a kid this year from Texas who was the backup to Robinson in the 5th round.
Yeah.
And they plan on sticking
they're
him
excited-
in there.
yeah, they're
excited
excited
what they're
about
going to
him.
do
Yeah.
because a lot of these teams, what they run is they run the zone scheme. So I just need a big body back that I'm going to say, look, man, we're going to run zone to the right. You're going to have an option of about 2 cuts. So you're going to make that cut and get upfield. Now, some of these guys that can catch, I think the kid from Alabama, Detroit, got Gibbs. I think he'll be dazzling out of the
Sure.
backfield. But overall, you're right. And Jonathan Taylor, it's such poor advice because you don't want to say, brother, honor your contract. It's not about the money you make; it's about what you end up with. And if I'm Jonathan Taylor, I'm building my financial house with real estate. I'm making sure I got some good dividend-paying stocks. I'm looking at some opportunities in the NFL. And if I'm so pissed off with all these running backs, I'm calling up Sonar with multi-format, and I'm going to start a podcast for running backs. And I'm going to see if I can monetize that. But you're absolutely right. And if I'm the Colts, you have a contract, and my patience is done, and I would deal with it. And there are guys out there. This Jordan Mason could come in and be electric.
Yeah.
And I think if you just have somebody that can be electric between the tackles, Brummy nailed it. This quarterback, now I'm not sold on this quarterback
Me
because
neither.
he comes into the league with, of all the first-round picks, he has the lowest amount of touchdown passes from college.
Yep.
If I'm scouting a college quarterback, first of all, I want to see does he play in a big conference. Check, he did. He played in Florida. Was he at least a 2? I'd like to see a 3-year starter. No,
No, he
he
wasn't.
was not. I'd like to see a year of touchdown passes of 20 to 25. I'd like to see a 2 to 3 to 1 ratio. No, he wasn't that. Can he slide step in the pocket? No, he could not. Now,
I'm
can now this guy had Jalen Hurts that Brummy's going to mention and did a great job with Jalen Hurts. Maybe he can coach him up. But I'm telling you, I see all the stuff from the Colts camp. There was nothing I saw watching his college football tape that told me. Now, he's 6'4", 6'5", 255 pounds. So Brummy's probably right. He's going to get a lot of carries, which he should. He can hold up to it. So maybe having a back that you can run between the tackles, you'd like that. But maybe Jonathan Taylor isn't as important as maybe having a good receiver, a tight end. Brother.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Dumping him for a second-round pick, I think that's what you need to do. And then
That's what I would
upgrade at wide receiver.
It's over. I mean,
what Sonar and I talk about a lot.
Severed the ties. I mean, it's not good.
No, it's not. It's what Sonar and I talk about a lot in business. A long illness is a sure death. Right now, that's a long illness, and that's an illness that they had to say you can't even stand there and encourage your teammates and get the mental reps. You got to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
You got to move them. You got to move them. You just got to move them. And it's too bad, again, it's the lesson of agents. And I tell you, I thought at one time, being a CPA, I thought about maybe, going down that path as a sports agent, because I would just say, look, man, this is the contract. Make the contract, okay? Now, how are we going to put this to work?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Think about where you want to be. Think about the allocation of assets you want to have. And what we must learn is the rule of contentment. We must be content with what we have. So I tell you what, that's the story. I'll tell you another big story as we wrap up this first segment. My gosh, the collapse of regional college football. I mean, the money and the TV money and the NIL have just absolutely collapsed. And I'll tell you who I feel bad for. I feel bad for those parents that work 40 hours a week and their son's playing offensive tackle for UCLA. And man, you're not making that. You're not going to be at that game.
No.
When they're playing Rutgers or they're playing Michigan State. I mean, you're not going to be at the road games. I guess you could say, well, Joe, were they really going to be at other games? But, I mean, I just think that it's going to be difficult for the parents to attend games. And, my gosh, are they going to spend any time in the classroom? Or are we just going to be remote learning college athletes now?
Joe, it was Chip Kelly corrected me on, but he did this whole video. He goes, the football guys are going to be fine. It's one day a week.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, you travel a day.
It's basketball,
and baseball,
the softball. He goes.
I mean,
here's
what do they do when they play on Tuesday and Wednesday, and they got to play over on the East Coast?
Point, are they going to be in school at all?
Not at all. No, remote learning college athletes.
Chip Kelly came up with a pretty slick idea actually for football. He said, "Hey, why don't we go 64 of the Power 5 and all be independent?" And then 64 of the mid-majors, and they play their own tournament. And I thought that was, it's innovative. And he's always been an innovative guy with his offenses.
Yeah, he has been.
But again, he goes, Notre Dame has it. He goes, the key to Notre Dame is they have the name. They have the brand.
Correct.
He goes, not all of us can do that, especially in the football realm. But I thought that was pretty slick. But, again, Friday night was just a mass. I saw it coming. I mean, you don't have Oregon and Washington show up for the Pac-10 meeting,
they're gone.
They're gone.
They should have called Mike Nutter. They should have had Mike. They should have had our next guest, Mike Nutter, go out to the Pac-10 negotiate that deal. Yeah. Did you see what they said? The Arizona president said that, man, that guy's idea was like selling Girl Scout cookies.
Well, yeah.
I mean, did you see that? But, no, that's an analogy.
So
that's how bad he thought the TV rights deal. You better call Mike Nutter.
Apple?
Come on now.
Apple TV. You're going to go to Apple TV. No, I got nothing against Apple TV. I got Apple TV. But I'm going to tell you this right now. You got Apple TV, and you're going to get money based off subscriptions.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Not only that, but then you go and you tell the teams – after 2 years, if you want to bail, you can bail.
Yeah,
well, who ain't going to do that?
Exactly.
Why are you going to stay around now if you're going to? I mean, you might as well go jump and get the money.
Isn't that right, Sonar?
And I guarantee
that's an open-ended deal.
Oregon.
That's exactly
Oregon,
right.
Yeah,
Sonar.
Oregon and Washington. I mean, I'm sure they had to take a discount rate to get into the Big Ten, but damn, they got more money than they ever would have got out of that Apple deal. $23 million is what they were saying. Now, I mean, the rest of these schools are making, $65, $70 million.
Yeah.
Now you know who's got the bad contract that's coming next? The next destruction is going to be the ACC.
Well, I wondered because Clemson, Florida State, and Miami. Clemson, Florida State, and Miami.
Their contract. goes until 2036.
Oh, jeez.
And you talk about lawyers. Lawyers are already going in from these schools and going, how do we get out of this?
Wow.
2036, and they are the lowest of the Power Fives as far as money.
To finish up on this segment before we get to the great Mike Nutter, so, Brummy, where does this all go? I mean, is there going to continue to see these conferences collapse and collapse?
Yeah,
and
I think
where does
so.
this all end up at?
I think you're going to look at I think you'll have three. You'll have two big major conferences in the SEC and the Big Ten. The Big 12, smart. They
pulled it together, didn't they?
So they pulled it together. But then you got, ACC is going to be hanging, I think, because if they lose Florida State, Clemson, and a possible Miami, they're done. I mean, and you guarantee Big Ten, they're either looking at those schools or they're looking at somebody like North Carolina and say, hey, we could pull them in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just going to get to the point where that's what you're going to have, and it's I guess it's just the way the world is now. I mean,
We'll see how
major
it works
conferences.
out.
It's money. It's all money. I mean, when it's all said and done, we've always said it's all money. I mean, that's
In the NIL,
bottom line.
big time, yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
before we go, congratulations to Jalen Smith.
Yes.
He signed with the Saints
Yes.
today. So
Yeah,
he's in
that
Saints
boy,
camp.
260.
Yeah.
And this Phil Mickelson deal today, $1 billion bet over 30 years. That's an average of 9 bets a day. On one game, he bet 45 bets on one baseball game.
That's why he's in the live. He got that money.
He
He
got
got that
that money.
cash cow to pay for his gambling.
He just
Can
got
you say
that last year.
Can you say degenerate?
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
I mean,
I had a friend one time out.
$1 billion.
I had a friend one time out in Vegas. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and he was going through the casinos, and there was a guy sitting over there that had a bunch of like tickets torn up around him where he had lost all of his bets. And the guy said, "Look, that's Bruce Jenner." And we all laughed. It wasn't Bruce Jenner. It was Pete Rose.
Okay.
And old Pete Rose put the finger up. You know, he wasn't too pleased.
Hey, but
man,
you know what? Here's a
I
good
tell you
team.
what. But Phil Mickelson. I mean, how do you even keep track of all the talk about degenerate? How do you even keep track of all that?
Well,
Man?
you always said it in the beginning on this live deal that he had to take the deal to get the money.
Sure,
He needed
sure.
money.
But you get with Pete Rose. Ohio opened up their FanDuel and all their betting.
Okay.
Sports betting. Pete Rose put $100 on the Cincinnati Reds to win the World Series this year, and they are in the last spot for the wild card. And guess what? If they would win it, it's a pretty hefty paycheck, and I can guarantee
He can stand out in front of,
I
he
can tell
stand
you
out in
this.
front of Major League Baseball and say,
Char-
you know what, y'all gonna put me in your Hall of Fame
Yep.
or not? But look, I'm cashing a ticket, baby.
Charlie Hustle will be there with a big old smile collecting on that one if that happens, man. That's just
All
crazy.
right. That's
Crazy.
great. Well, we just segue into baseball, and I tell you what, I'm excited, man. We love our baseball in the 260. We're all sporting the hats tonight.
Thank you,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Nutter.
Tin Cap
Yes.
Pride tonight. And if you love 260 baseball, there's nobody better with more energy and excitement to have on the
Minor League
podcast.
Baseball.
Correct, than the team president, the Tin Caps, and Mike Nutter. So coming up next, Mike Nutter on the 260.
It's the 260 podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m., highlighting all Indiana sports, featuring guests from the 260 area code and beyond. Live on YouTube every Thursday at 7 p.m. Just search the 260, also available anywhere you find your podcasts. And remember, when searching, there are no zeros in the 260. It's the 260 podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m.
It feels like we're taking the crown. It feels like we were born to be champions. We were born to be champions. We were born to have a name in the lights, 'cause we're taking a ride to the top, to the top. Born to be champions. We were born to be champions.
It's the 260 Podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m., highlighting all Indiana sports featuring guests from the 260 area code and beyond. Live on YouTube every Thursday at 7 p.m. Just search the 260, also available anywhere you find your podcasts. And remember, when searching, there are no zeros in the 260. It's the 260 Podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m.
Yes, this is the 260. I'm Joe Walburn. I'm joined by Dave Rickert. Matt Brumball's riding shotgun. Sonar's in the house. We got Denise. Shouts out to Ryan Preston. I laid it down last week on podcast number 21 with the basketball. A lot of great feedback, Ryan. I tell you what, take that up to Trine for marketing and say, hey, man, I'm walking in the door with some extra credit before class even begins.
I got
I tell you what,
right now.
That's right.
What's that?
I got an A+ right now.
I know you do. You're rolling with that, so appreciate the effort and all that. And, man, I'm so excited about tonight's show. You talk about energy, a visionary, the minor league baseball executive of the year from 2022, being joined right now by the one and only Mike Nutter.
That's quite an intro, fellas. It's an honor for me to be on with you guys. I know each of you guys. I've loved watching all you guys. Coach and I go way back, and it's so cool to be up here in this place that is transitioning from one of your prior segments with TK Herman and Scott Howard.
Yes.
But I spent many days out here on these bleachers watching the kids and that kind of stuff, and it's neat. I think this is the next step maybe for this venue to stay, relevant and get back to the thing that it was before. And with those two guys involved and Howard's competitive nature, I have no doubt it'll be on the map for pickleball.
I think that's well said, and I think that's really been Dave and I's position. And Denise
TK doesn't do anything without analyzing it 10 ways to Sunday.
Exactly, and we feel like, look, Spiece, obviously, Brummy, had a great run with basketball.
Sure, absolutely.
Now, that's coming to an end, so why not transition to being the mecca of pickleball?
I couldn't agree more.
Can't we change our game as business people? You always look, okay, do I need to change my product, or what do I need to do to make my business better? So there was a lot of negative pushback where Dave and I was kind of dumbfounded, because I'm like, look, okay, yeah, let's celebrate the greatness, Mike, of the Spiece basketball, but now we have the ability to morph into something huge.
Yeah. I could not agree more. I agree 100%, because when this venue started, and nobody's throwing any stones or shade at this venue,
of course
the
not.
economic impact in this town and this region was absolutely amazing. But when we opened this place, there wasn't the stuff in Westfield at Grand Park. There weren't all these other basketball things in Michigan. We were it. So, some of them passed us by, and no shot against anybody. So let's look at it, as you said, Joe, of like, this is the fastest growing game. Maybe some people don't get it. That's fine. We were talking before the show. If it's on ESPN in prime time, we're all going to get it at some point. And so I'm the big 5-0 this past fall, and a lot of my buddies have made that transition from basketball into pickleball and different stuff, because we still want to compete and be competitive and get the camaraderie and that kind of stuff. But
you know what, though? Before we get to your background, because I want to hear about, I think you grew up in Ohio, and I want to hear about your mom and dad and everything. I think that's a fascinating point from you, because of all people, I respect that, because, man, when you're a president of a minor league team, I respect you guys so much, because you guys are always thinking outside the box. I mean, it is guerrilla grassroots marketing, and the way you guys, I mean, I love the tenderloin idea this year. I mean, now of course I love tenderloins. I'm kind of a big tenderloin, but you know what? That was brilliant. So to hear you say that, I give that a lot of credence, Dave, because I think I respect you so much because I feel like when I think of minor league baseball, I think of guys that wake up every single day and they're like,
How am I going to put people in the stands?
what's the idea today, guys? What are we coming up with today, man?
I gotta have you guys come down to a sales meeting because you guys
I
are
see you, Sonar.
you guys are speaking my language. People will say to me, "What keeps you up at night?" Joe, you just went all the way around it. To me, I'll tell people complacency.
Oh,
We just got no
absolutely,
time.
brother.
We got no
Stagnant,
time
you're
for
done.
it. And so it's got to be the tenderloins, and it's got to be
brilliant.
the throwback to the Wizards and some of the
Office,
stuff.
the
because-
lady you brought in from The Office.
Yeah, she was so cool.
She was
She's
fantastic, man.
She's like, "Can we do a selfie?" And I said, "Yeah, I mean, I guess. I don't think I've ever done one other with my kids." And she's like, "Let's do it. We'll do 2. Thumbs up for if you guys win tonight. You can post it, and we'll do one of these if you guys don't win." So fortunately, I got to use the good one that night.
Nice.
Now take us
But
back.
that goes to what we was talking about with the Savannah Bananas. That guy
Yeah.
thinks outside
Oh.
the box.
Oh,
Brilliant.
all day long.
And
All
hopefully
day
we
long.
can get him someday.
I'd love to. I reached
Brilliant.
out to Jesse Cole. His assistant is an IU grad. We reached out to them and said, "Hey, if you're building the tour for 2024, we want
We
you in the
want
Summit
in.
City." My good
Yes.
buddy Randy
We're number one, by the way.
Lewandowski had him down in Indy.
Yep.
30,000 people over
Yeah.
2 nights. I think
nights.
you guys
Matt
were
was
there.
there.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's insane. And, there was a lot of pushback from Major League Baseball for the pitch clocks and some of the stuff. We're
Sure.
about it because we want the entertainment and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Now take us back to when you grew up. Tell us a little bit about your mom and dad. I know you said some really wonderful things about your father.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your mom and dad. And also, I want to know, did you always have this kind of energy and passion?
I would say
I mean,
so.
I mean, were you that first grader that when the
being the guy.
teacher walked in, you're like, yeah, let's get the crayons out, baby.
Yeah,
I mean,
but Joe, I spent a lot of time in detention because I didn't know how to turn it off. Back when I was that age, they didn't have those pills you could take to chill out just a little bit. So I got the greatest parents in the world.
Yeah,
They're
tell us
still
about 'em.
alive. They're in Central Florida. I was born in Akron, Ohio, and then we lived in Napoleon, Ohio, up 24.
Not too far from here.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Huge sports family. Where we are, it's all Buckeyes stuff. And
yeah.
again, that's how that whole state was. Where when we get
Sure.
over here, you got IU, you got Purdue,
Yeah.
you got ND, you got stuff over there. Of course, we had
You'd
other
make
universities.
my daughter-in-law
but-
happy. She's a big Ohio
Oh,
State
good.
fan.
And then so he moved out to California. My mom was a teacher the whole time, and a shout out to my mom because when we moved from Napoleon, Ohio, where my brother was like this basketball star,
Yeah.
and he went on to play a couple years at Defiance, and
Wow.
then he went out to California. He was done playing, and he's walking across campus at his playing weight that was 6'6" and 245, and a guy walks up to him and says, "I need you." And my brother said, "I don't know what you coach, but man, I'm done." And the guy said, "I coach Division I AA lacrosse, and after the
Interesting.
game's over, we drink a cooler full of beer, and during the game, you can hit some people." My brother looked at him and said, "Coach, I'll see you on Monday."
I'm in.
So he was raw,
Fantastic.
but he was athletic, and so it was a
Wow.
big sports family. Well, when we moved, it was
Wow.
tough.
What a change. What was it like to go from Ohio to what? I mean, you guys were east of Oakland.
Yeah,
and
we were on the
Caliburn.
East Bay.
What was it like to be out?
It was rough. So I
Wow,
went to
what
two
a
high
transition.
schools my freshman year. One was like that old show, Beverly Hills 90210. Like I walk into school the first day, and every car in the parking lot was a BMW.
Really?
At whatever $1,000
you're in the
bucks.
rich side.
Yeah. And so I went home, and I'm like, I don't know whether we have money or we don't have money, but all those people got too much. And so it's the statute of limitations is worn off. So to get me to transfer to a school within town, I had to tell them that I was going out for swimming. Because the one school had a pool and the other one didn't. Oh, I went out, but let me tell you, I went up to the coach. You'd have loved one of these,
Oh,
Coach.
I bet.
Coach, I got no business being here. I understand you got to make cuts. I'm good being the first guy. But I had to come out today.
Nice.
And so
Nice.
my mom actually, all kidding aside, my mom probably 10, 15 years ago, before she retired down in the Orlando area, she won one of these awards that looks like one of those Emmys or Oscars, but
Yeah.
it's called a Mickey for Mickey Mouse. And they gave her like a $10,000 stipend for her school because she developed a curriculum for people that move. And so I moved out there.
fascinating.
Didn't know anything. Didn't know anybody.
Fascinating.
I didn't have a chance to throw myself yourself into the sports yet because you're walking around and
Yeah,
you're like, what
just,
in the
where
world?
am I
Where
at?
am I?
Yeah.
I don't belong here. And in the end, I did. And so my parents lived close enough to Disney that on a Monday, my mom could come in as a guidance counselor, and there might be 20 new kids sitting there. Maybe they speak English, maybe they don't. Mom and dad got a job at the parks or something with the juggernaut that is Disney and that
Sure.
sort of thing. And so it's like she developed these bowling parties and all that stuff, and it was like, okay, well, don't be embarrassed. Everybody's got a bowl with their offhand or, something like
Yeah,
that. So our
something fun.
parents were the best. Family vacations were going to sporting events and spring training. My dad was my best man at my wedding when I got
Oh, my
married a
God.
long
That's-
time
that's
ago.
beautiful, brother.
Yeah, and so
you
last
said your dad worked for Campbell's, right?
he was with Campbell's, he was with Dinner Bell Meat, all these meat companies. It's funny.
So you ate well as a kid.
Yeah, a lot of cold lunch meat is what we ate well. And
A lot of white bread sandwiches.
and
we call
dented
'em.
soup cans that they couldn't serve on the counter on the
Nice.
shelves. But the last thing I'd say is,
High end.
Yeah.
I am,
high-end.
baby.
It wasn't expired yet. My dad told a story at my sister's wedding. She's the oldest of the three. And she said when our kids were young, my sister was always in the other room playing doctor. She ended up graduating from Vanderbilt Med School.
Oh,
my
man.
brother
Wow.
broke every Tonka truck there was ever made. I think they just started sending to my parents saying, there's no refund. Take it for free. He did construction management. He's still in
Wow.
it. And my dad tells stories that we would sit up in their room listening to the old transistor radio with Herb Score calling Indians games.
Oh, man.
And reading
Yeah.
the box score
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so
Is that kind of where it kind of began for you,
Oh,
Mike?
big time. Yeah, and
That-
I'm
that's
not one of those guys,
fascinating.
the older I get, the better athlete I was. I was good
No.
enough to play stuff, but
Sure.
my mom deserves a lot of credit because she pulled me aside one day, and my brother was this physically gifted guy, and everybody jokes, yeah, we have the same parents. And it's like, but the thing was, she said one day, you can be in a career in sports, but not the one that people are cheering for. And now so many schools have sports management in college.
Yeah.
A lot of the great colleges around here have them. It's a great major, but way back then, it was only Bowling Green, UMass, and I think Ohio University.
Because it was so new, huh?
It was so new.
Indiana State also.
Yeah.
Because my
Wow.
two buddies from Northrop,
Yeah, you're right.
they're with the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah.
As soon as they graduated, they've been with the Sabres from day.
So after 2 years of college at Cal State Chico, way far northern
Chico,
Cal,
baby.
Yeah.
Chico, baby.
Yeah, right.
Chico
Well,
Bell.
your
Chico Bell Bond.
Chico, baby.
I was
your
going to wear that
reaction-
tonight. I should have. I should have worn my Bad News Bears
Your
jersey.
reaction feeds perfectly into this story. So when your father shows up on a college campus unannounced from Dallas, Texas to Northern California and goes like this, son, your mom and I would like to pay for any college in America for you to attend. Wow. Other than the one you're currently attending.
Now, was Chico like a community school?
It was a 4-year
Oh,
thing.
it was a 4-year.
Division 1 AA. They actually
Ooh,
still
wow.
had
So how did you-
football way back then.
So-
A buddy of mine played at St. Mary's that's had some
Wow.
guys in different sports
Yeah.
and stuff. And I remember going to games. So I joke with people. So I transferred back to BG where I was so bored I made the dean's list because my dad's a Bowling Green grad. My mom got her master's
Wow.
from there. And from the Napoleon days, we would go to a lot of their football games. And
Was it tough to make that though? Was it tough to
Oh,
make that decision,
yeah.
Mike? That had to be a big like fork in the road in your life.
Yeah, and the biggest thing I miss, Joe, is probably some of the relationships and stuff then
Sure.
because you move and, okay, there's all the social media stuff, but, you do lose some of that stuff. And
Sure.
so it was tough, but I needed to do it. And
Worked out for the best.
Yeah, they ended up picking a town in the Chicago suburbs after Dallas, and there was a minor league team there called the Kane County Cougars that
Yeah.
were in our league
Yeah.
forever in the Chicago suburbs.
Wow.
I spent 4 summers there. It was
How'd you
tough.
get in there, Mike?
Man, somebody gave you some stuff ahead of time because the way I got in there is the most embarrassing story I'll tell tonight.
I think I know this
the
one. Go
first
ahead.
for the first year, my mom and dad were like, "Hey, why don't you come back and work here?" And I'm like, Northern California. I didn't know anything about Chicago and the Chicagoland suburbs, or I'd have gone back. But I'm thinking, no, I'm good working at the drugstore here and doing my thing. And so the next year, my mom calls me. I'm out at Chico, and she says, "Remember that minor league team that we talked about working at last year?" And I said, "Yeah, what about it? You start there a week from Thursday."
Oh
And
my
I
gosh,
said,
you-
what?
right, Mom.
And she said, "Your dad might be a great sales guy and my dad had good success in business." She goes, "Make no mistake, I'm the best salesperson in this family. So your general manager just hired you sight unseen. Don't let me down." And it was like,
Wow!
okay.
Wow!
No,
Wow!
that guy became
That's
my
how
mentor.
You got to Kane.
Yeah, so I would say this about what
Unbelievable.
they did for us. When the 4 summers I was there,
Wow.
6 of us went on to be general managers of the 100 teams around the country. So it's not
go,
that's
baby.
not about us.
Let's go,
That's about
man.
them.
That's awesome.
That's
yeah.
a great
him.
story.
That's
Bill
the-
Larson
okay.
is
That-
my mentor.
yeah.
I I'll text him tonight and say, "Hey man, I was on and I talked about you." Not
Wow.
because he wants anything. He's retired, but he taught
relationship.
us. That's it. And he taught us. There's a lot of youth sports things in it. He taught us it was okay to fail. Man, try. Like you
Yeah.
mentioned before in the intro, some of the tenderloin, some of the stuff has flopped. But man, if you're so worried about
What's one of your
what
biggest flops?
Oh, I'll tell you the biggest one that I was ever a part of. So we're over at Kane County. I'm one of the promo guys, and we've got this guy coming out that bills himself as the next Houdini.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, his name was the Great Colita. I'll never
Great
forget it.
Colita.
I can't remember loved ones' birthdays, but I can remember
remember
stuff
the
like that.
Colita.
Yeah.
The Great Kalita.
So he's gonna go on pregame, and he's gonna do the dunk tank with the straight jacket and all this stuff.
man, here we
and
go.
we're talking to this guy, and I go up to Bill Larson, the GM I referenced before, and I'm like, I don't think he can do it. And he's like, I don't know what that means, man, but keep those thoughts to yourself. You know, I was like, all right.
You're jinxing us.
Yeah, so maybe it's a half hour before the game time, and they're like, hey, change of plans. We're going to do it after the game, but before the fireworks to kill some time. And I thought, well, that's good.
Yeah.
We got 3 hours to figure out whether this guy can get in and out of a dunk tank. The next thing I know, we had delayed it from pregame to postgame. Why? Because a beer sponsor brought him out. So instead of filling the dunk tank with water, beer. Oh yeah, guys.
Oh wow! Now it really upped the.
The guy did the thing. It was incredible. And for the next 10 home games we played, there were nothing but complaints from the hitters because there was 10,000 gnats flying around. Because of all that
All the
beer.
beer.
Yeah.
All the beer.
Yeah.
So,
Not all of them are
fantastic, man.
tenderloin level successes.
That first day, though, going back with Kane County, okay, Mama gets you in. What was that first day like? Walking through the door that first day.
I took a lot of heat because how I got that job for one.
Mama.
Dad taught us a lot. We didn't do a lot of complaining. You know,
Yeah.
there was a lot of military stuff to it.
Midwest.
I'm from a Midwest military family, not my direct mom and dad, but like. You just didn't complain. You did the job, and I know it's going to sound like one of those things. The first job, literally for the first month, was cleaning bathrooms.
Yeah.
And this guy, Bill Larson, came up after about a month, and he's like, "We can't get you to complain." I said, "If I complain, I'm working at a ballpark. Like, I'm 18 years old. There was
Right. Yep.
pretty good scenery around at the time and stuff.
No,
And you're
that-
like,
you know, I mean, that's
like,
what-
what am I going to do?"
Yeah, that's what Randy, Lewandowski talks about. You know, a podcast that he was on here recently, he just talks about how he worked to sell, having to go get donuts. You know, whatever it took.
Just do whatever it
You
took.
just do
But
it.
again, and Mike's passion and Randy's passion, obviously baseball.
Randy's
is
the best.
But what they do is, it's like we're at the ballpark, man. This is a great. You got this scene right there.
Yeah,
There's nothing
we
like
come where people are willing to spend their time and money and stuff like that. Where we work to come and get away and maybe put the phone down for a little bit. We all still have them all the time, but
Sure.
that kind of thing where it's like we can make
Hear
some
the crack
memories.
of the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
So-
nothing better than going down to Parkview Field. I'm just telling you that right now.
I
mean,
love to sit right behind
I-
home plate, and I mean, just looking how Keith.
Oh, Keith Winter, the
Oh, yeah.
groundskeeper.
Keith Winter,
if you look
baby.
at the track.
It's immaculate.
I mean, it's
It's just
immaculate.
immaculate.
It's
I mean,
hard to believe
just-
on
it's incredible.
October 2nd, we're ripping that whole field out.
What?
For a new one. We failed a test from Major League Baseball under
failed a
these
test?
new
Wow.
How could that-
requirements. We have a bit of a slope built into it intentionally back in the day. That's the way they did it. That's the way we
the
love it, so the
rain-
water runs
Sure.
off.
Yeah.
You can go out in this Indiana clay and put a shovel in the ground, and half the time that shovel's bending before the ground.
Yes.
And so we got to go down 18 inches and rip the whole thing out and
Wow.
redo it all because the grade, the slope and stuff. Actually, Randy that we referenced in Indianapolis,
Yeah.
I hope it's public since I'm saying it out there. I think they're doing the exact same thing with the same vendor that we're using.
Okay.
And so
Wow.
a lot of teams, we were probably a few years away to need to do something anyway, so it's not the end of the world, but it's been wild. It's
My
been
wife works for Wygan
Yeah.
Construction, so she was on
Yeah.
part of that job.
Yeah.
And I just remember how when they built the field, how big these tiles that run underneath that field. I guess that are 8 foot, maybe 10 foot.
It's crazy.
So it goes the whole length, this tile after tile.
Really?
And it's a
swamp.
sand-based field. So people have asked a good question, like a legit question, like that looks so good aesthetically. Whoops. And can we come down there and take some of that grass before you guys get rid of it? My good buddy Keith is like this over here in the corner.
Keith,
like,
I could see Keith right now.
yeah, but
man.
it's like it's built on a sand base. Under the grass
Yeah.
there's got to be 8 to 12 inches of sand so
Really,
that
that
all
much?
the water can run out. And so if you try and put that at your house, it's going to look the color of this basketball hardwood,
Yeah.
and they're going to come back wanting where's my warranty on that free sod? And so that'll go away. It's been a fun year.
First place
yeah.
right now.
We're in first place right now.
I have a game.
By a game and a half after
and a half.
last night. We
Game and a
picked
half
one up
now.
on everybody. And as we sit here today, yesterday the Padres sent us, in the history of Wizards or TinCaps, the youngest player we've ever had.
At the catcher?
The catcher, he turned 17
yeah.
on June 1st. So
Yeah.
he started
Yeah.
playing this year at 16 in
Yeah.
pro ball full season.
Wow.
He signed for $5 or $6 million. Fellas, this is me talking, not the Padres. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in Double-A yet this year.
Wow.
And I would not be surprised if he plays in the big leagues next
So
year.
he's
at
going to beat
8.
Bryce Harper.
You know,
Now, didn't
Pudge
Johnny
Rodriguez,
Bench? Didn't Johnny Bench? Didn't he play
all
when he
those
was
guys,
18? Correct me, guys.
A lot of those guys did.
Is that true? Did Johnny Bench play when he was 18?
Yeah.
Oh, I think
Yep.
so. And I think
Yeah.
Pudge
Because
was
Harper
18 or
was 19,
19.
wasn't he?
Yeah.
Harper
That's
was 19 and
unbelievable.
skipped that final year of high school
Wow.
and had to go to the JUCO.
Wow.
So,
So now, with your relationship with him, with you guys,
Have you met him yet?
have you
no,
met-
they've been on the road.
Oh,
so
been on the road.
I
Okay.
I
'Cause
hope he's
mentally-
still a tin cap next week.
Well, exactly. That's right. Got
Exactly.
the trading deadline, all that. Or what?
Yeah.
Because then you wonder though about the mentally being able to handle that.
It's unreal.
He's
So
been-
I mean, it's
Joe,
unreal.
He's been
Just-
trained.
he caught 2 games in spring training for the major league pitchers, Joe Musgrove, that threw the no-hitter last year. Joe got done and he said to somebody, this kid's 16,
Yeah.
fully fluent in English and Spanish. Like, there's just
Oh
no
my
way.
gosh.
Trained,
Fully
trained.
fluent.
Yeah,
Wow.
he's got a brother that plays Double-A. Dad played, the uncle played, grandpa played,
Just
so it's
in
in
the
the blood.
bloodline, yeah.
So
Yeah.
was he part, Mike? Was he part of that Padres? You know how they have the like the Dominican.
Yeah.
and, like he was part of that.
He actually went to some school in Orlando because that's where
Okay.
mom and dad live, and then
Okay.
moved back to the Dominican or Venezuela.
Really? Okay.
And was the top prospect
To
in
go to
the
baseball school.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in the top prospect of the whole thing. Everybody talks about mom and dad are awesome, like the great appropriate sports family. Like their kids have a gift and they fostered it.
They
Literally,
get it.
Joe and I
Yeah.
said at the same time, in the blood. People are like, that's not true. And it's like, it is. If
Yes,
you meet
it is.
the
Yes,
Alou
it is.
brothers or some of these other
Yes.
families where it's
No.
like, how
The
can there be
Griffeys.
8 of them if
The
there's
Griffeys.
not? Yeah.
Now, when you have a big prospect come like that through the TinCaps, that's got to be some surge in attendance and some excitement.
Oh, yeah.
And then do you dare do any marketing around that, or don't you guys really market players individually? Or
Great question, man. You know, I always joke with my buddy Scott Sproat at the Comets. I'm like, Sproat, man, I saw him at a TinCaps game the other night. We share season tickets with each other. His son Reed's playing at like San Diego State Division
Yeah.
I
Nice.
soccer next year. So awesome. And I said, Scott, you always get to market these guys. And not that his don't come and go. They certainly do, and we're a fan of them.
Sure.
But when he got here a couple days ago, that was the most we've ever done for a single kid. Because today, Baseball America issued their top 100 prospects for all of baseball, and he moved to number 6.
Wow.
And it's like
Wow.
at that age, yeah. And
Could I get
so
out and watch some games?
we did some
Or-
video of
while he's
him like
here.
welcoming
Joe,
him.
He, ain't gonna,
He won't be
Yeah.
here long. Huh?
Well, I can remember when Trey Turner came
Yeah.
through here. And
Yeah.
Trey, it was like I watched that guy go. He's not going to be here very
Yeah.
long, and he wasn't. He was
Yeah.
there and gone. I mean,
Yeah.
it's sad.
300 million later,
Yeah.
he's doing all right.
Yeah, he's doing okay.
You know,
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a little break there. When we come back on the other side, April 16th, 2009. A very prideful day for you
And the city.
TinCaps and the city. I want to talk about that. So coming up next, opening day of 2009 with the great Mike Nutter here on the 260.
260 Podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m., highlighting all Indiana sports featuring guests from the 260 area code and beyond. Live on YouTube every Thursday at 7 p.m. Just search the 260, also available anywhere you find your podcasts. And remember, when searching, there are no zeros in the 260. It's the 260 Podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m.
It feels like we're taking the crown. It feels like we were born to be champions. We were born to be champions. We were born to have a name in the lights, 'cause we're taking a ride to the top, to the top. Born to be champions. We were born to be champions.
It's the 260 Podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m., highlighting all Indiana sports featuring guests from the 260 area code and beyond. Live on YouTube every Thursday at 7 p.m. Just search the 260, also available anywhere you find your podcasts. And remember, when searching, there are no zeros in the 260. It's the 260 Podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m.
Yes, this is the 260, and I think this could be the debut of the Mike Nutter podcast, everybody. I'm telling you what. And what it should say is just waking up every day in the minor leagues, baby. And what are you going to market and sell today? So I tell you
Mr.
what,
Energy
Dave.
right here.
Yeah, and thank you, Dave, for booking number 22. Tremendous energy. Brumball's with us. We're kind of taking a tour around the minor leagues with the great Mike Nutter. And Mike, April 16th, 2009. Talk about all the hard work leading up to that moment. Such a prideful day in the 260. Launching Parkview Field. Kind of take us up to that moment, your emotions, the team, and what that meant to you guys as the TinCaps.
It was absolutely awesome. I still remember those jets flying over.
Yeah.
From the Air Guard base, and absolutely amazing. A lot of people want to take credit for the ballpark now that it was their idea and that kind of stuff, but I remember otherwise. And so I used to go around and jokingly called it the rubber chicken circuit, where I'd go and speak to as many groups as we can, and it was tough. But
I'll be honest with you. You know what? I was against it. A lot of us were like,
I
was in on it.
And you know what?
I loved it from the get-go, man.
And you know what?
I'm like,
and you know
this
what?
stadium we got is not
no
that
doubt.
old.
Exactly.
No doubt.
We've got a stadium out,
Yeah.
and it's on Coliseum. What's wrong with
Coliseum.
And you know what?
Now.
We were all wrong. And you know what? Hats off and congratulations to you guys, because
have a
you're
vision.
right. That you guys got a lot of criticism with that, and
Yeah.
you kind of keep your head down,
did.
and you guys grinded through it. And man,
And now
did
the
it
first
turn
game
out?
I went to, and I'm like, I was terribly wrong, man.
Oh man, the Mecca it
sunsets
is.
is
Well,
coming there.
it's not only that; it's the development of what happened after
around
that.
it.
Yeah.
I
Around
think if it
downtown.
just would have been
Yeah.
us and not the other stuff.
That's a great point. So you're talking
Yeah.
about how the downtown just kind of came
It
back
thrives
alive.
now.
It does, and
It-
that
it
was probably.
thrives.
Wouldn't you guys agree? That was kind of the marker that was put down there.
Yeah.
That kind of was the.
That was the
symbol
pillar.
That it's like, okay, we're going to come back to life down here.
Yeah.
I agree, Joe, and it's not us taking credit for it. It was just people had the confidence of, wait a minute, if the city and the people are going to do $30 million in a ballpark and the parking garage and this building and this stuff, then I can put my restaurant down there and I can do this and that kind of thing.
Yeah, we can build on
that. It just kept going. I look back on that. It was so awesome. We won. We talked before about my upbringing. I graduated from a high school called San Ramon Valley High. We had some famous, any old 90s rockers out there. I remember the Counting Crows.
Counting Crows
is an alum of ours. The Mad Dog, Mark Madsen, and I went to high school together.
Nice.
He won 3 titles with
the
Kobe
Lakers.
and Shaq
Yeah.
with the Lakers.
Played at Stanford.
His biggest problem was he tried rapping with those guys after one of the championships.
That was brutal.
That's all everybody remembers about him.
But a kid that hit a home run for I almost said Wizards, for the TinCaps on April 16th, 2009, James Darnell, he reached the big leagues.
Yeah.
We went to the same high school, and so
Wow, so
before
he hit a
the first
Man,
game we
what's
ever
that-
played, he was
what's
the
the
only
odds
one.
of that?
What's the
So
odds
I
of
went
that?
up to-
That's
it's
God.
crazy.
That's God saying, you know
I
what?
went up-
I
yeah.
see you,
This
Mike.
is why it
I see you,
happened.
Mike.
Funny you
This is
say
why it
that.
happened.
He's a youth minister at one of the biggest pastors in Southern California.
fantastic,
It's
brother.
unbelievable. But I went up to him like when they first flew into town. I said, "Hey man, from one San Ramon Valley Wolf to another,
go.
let's go."
Let's
And he
go.
looks at me. He's like, "What year did you graduate?" I said, "Don't worry, JD. That was before you were born." So, class of '91, if anybody's wondering. This kid was probably born in '95.
Was that the moment where you felt like with the TinCaps, like
It was.
that you guys felt like,
Yeah.
man, we're here.
It was. And operationally, like, I shouldn't do this, but those of us in business and
Sure.
that are type A and probably stress too much stuff some of that stuff. But, man, I look back and I'm like, we couldn't serve concessions that. And I was a genius that said, if we're going to do this, you got to start with like 50 cent or dollar beer night. And it's like, man, you don't have to make it any harder on yourself than it already is. So a lot of the behind the curtain stuff, we loved it. We knew, like, wait a minute, we got through it. The real one was like a couple days before, if I remember right, we opened on a Thursday night, and we were the Saturday before, the team was out of town, but we did an open house, and all those construction banners and everything finally came down. And the site that we had seen grow, you know, people were just open. I loved the 9 years I spent with the Wizards. We all talked about that. It was the stadium was fine, but we just thought it would be on a different scale. And so when people were walking around, and it was like they were buying this stuff so fast, we couldn't keep it in. And I'm thinking, we got 3,000 pieces of hate mail and letters to the editor, and why don't you call yourself the Potheads instead of the TinCaps?
I remember that.
My last name is Nutter. I've heard name jokes my whole life, so bring it on. But that next year, then in 2010, we played an all-star game, the only one we got. We were supposed to rotate it. It was a 16-team league back then. We were due to have another one in 2024 or 2026. Major League Baseball currently isn't allowing to play all-star games, but in that game alone, a starting outfielder for the West team was Mike Trout.
Wow.
Another one out there was a guy named Chris Davis that hit exactly 40 home runs in the big leagues 3 years in a row. Will Myers was a Padre and a Red and a bunch of teams. That was the starting outfield for the West, and it was crazy. That back to that 09 team. We set the all-time record in minor league baseball. We won 101 games. We set the record for the amount of most big leaguers ever from a low single-A team at like 21 or 24
oh my gosh,
guys.
That is moving guys.
Yeah, Anthony Bass is still playing. He made some news earlier this year. They got him released by Toronto, but he's a great friend of mine. I know his heart. I know what kind of man he is, a family man. He made some political statements that didn't sit well in Toronto in this day and age, but
that's probably not too hard to do.
yeah, it didn't seem like it was to me. And so, great dude. So he's still kicking around. And then I was watching a game. I don't remember. I think it might have been the Orioles or somebody this week. And they said, let's throw it down to our, like the sideline reporter or the guy in the dugout. And it was Brad Brock. And he closed out our first game, the final game of the championship season. Spent 8 or 9 years in the big leagues. And so it's pretty neat. One of these years, we're going to invite back every guy that played for us that year and see where they're at in life and stuff
That'd
like
be
that.
cool. Yeah.
And just see the fans and that kind of stuff. The Comets do that stuff well. They've kept so many people around the region that they can do stuff where
night.
it's incredible and people come out. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Hey, was it 2 weeks ago? I was trying to get you on the show, and you went out to San Diego.
I did.
Now, what do you do? Are you working? Are you just
That's really stretching it.
vacation?
Yeah, a little both. It was absolutely a blast. So have a son and a daughter that are both going to be a freshman and a sophomore at IU this year. They'll come back and work and do stuff. They both worked at the ballpark this year. But we did take a family vacation.
Okay, so
we did the zoo. We did La Jolla. We did all the touristy stuff. We also had a lot of meetings. The Padres were extremely
So
gracious.
you do go there to the Padres headquarters.
Absolutely.
And you have meetings.
Man, the nicest thing I've ever been offered in my entire career was a couple weeks ago. One of the owners of the team invited my family up there in the suite watching the game, and you're in this suite, and there's major league players sitting around you, and like the former guys that can just come and go, and like they're community ambassadors and stuff. And then one of the neat things for me, my first year in town was way back in 2000 with the Wizards. And our ace that year was a 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid named Jake Peavy that ended up winning a Cy Young Award and 2 World Series.
Bananas.
Yeah, he pitched for the Bananas.
Yeah.
So the Friday night that we were out in San Diego, Jake got into their Hall of Fame.
Oh, man, you were there for it.
Yeah,
Great timing, brother.
The timing was perfect, and we booked it around the TinCaps schedule. I didn't realize it, and I get chills talking about it because
fantastic.
he was okay, so
sounds like a
I would have been
guy.
27 years old. He was 19. We hit it off, and absolute incredible young guy back then. He did all the community stuff. I remember a story about Peeve that he was with the agents, like maybe from his hometown or something. Like, what you see around here sometimes. Like, take care of the guy that you grew up around and that kind of stuff. But everybody realized how good he was going to be. And I think it was one of the biggest agencies in the world with sending golf clubs, and we'd love to have your services and that kind of stuff. Then I remember when the Padres signed him to that huge deal before he won a Cy Young Award. And in the press conference, somebody said to him, "What are you going to do with all that money?" And he, just a country boy, like his kids are named like Wyatt and like these country kids, and they're just awesome, great Christian young dude. And Peeve's just the best. And it was like, he's like, "What am I going to do with the money? Shoot, where I'm from, people can't even count that high. It's not changing me. Like, I'll pay off mom and dad's mortgage, or something, get a new truck or something." It was like that.
When
kind
he
of
was
stuff.
on the Bananas episode, he's really a down-to-earth
But
guy.
that's who he is. And when he won the Cy Young, he won the Triple Crown for the Padres, the only player to do it. So he led the National League in wins, ERA, and strikeouts at about 5'11" or 6 foot. He maximized everything. He was loved by everybody. We played there was some golf battles out at Cherry Hill. I hope I can name a golf course here in town, but out there, and with guys playing, and none of us had any money back then, but it was it was back to what we talked about before, those competitive juices going. I remember at Cherry Hill, my team was way out of it. They asked me and the group that finished before, get your cars and park them towards like the 18 greens so the group behind us can finish. For big money. It was probably $50 or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Mike, what's your average day with the TinCaps? What is it that gives you the juice and the excitement? And is it coming up with the ideas every day? What drives you every day to be the best you can be?
That's a big one. Just the new ideas and not being complacent and not sitting here stagnant and like, hey, this is what we've always done, so let's keep doing it. You got to mix this has always worked versus the new and that kind of stuff. And then we have an incredible staff.
Do you guys sit around a room? Like I almost
these guys do.
I envision you guys. I'm like, because the ideas are incredible.
Yeah.
And I almost envision you guys sitting around the room like, man, just like, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that?
When these guys came last year and they're like, hey, we want to play next year as the Tenderloins. And I said, we want to do what?
Yeah.
And I had heard stuff on radio and different things, and it was our way of being goofy, slapstick. We don't want to be edgy or over that because we don't think in the Summit City that's what our fans want. They want silly, goofy. They want entertainment. Sure. And again, we did a Burt Kreischer show this year.
You got
that pushed it, but that wasn't a TinCaps game.
No, I know, but you need to tell that story about it.
Yeah. So I'll get back to that. So we sit around and these guys are like,
this story's
these
great,
guys are like,
Troy went to that show.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it sold 8,800 tickets in 2 days. It was sold out. The next day after us, he's doing the St. Louis Blues, 15,000. He's doing New Orleans and Vegas and Fort Wayne. And so the thing is, Joe, they'll decide. We'll decide, but I defer to the other people and like, hey, we want to do this and we want to do that, and it's like, okay, and then they will take 2-3 days in the off season of like, okay, so on here, we're not allowed to use that name anymore. On Wizards and Wands night, we get cease and desist letters from a lot of people. Can't be Harry Potter. Can't be Margaritaville. Can't be Jimmy Buffett Margaritaville night. It can't be any of that stuff.
Jimmy wants his money.
Jimmy, I think he's got plenty, but he's still looking for
still
more.
wants it, yeah.
And you know what? If they earn that and they trademarked it, they deserve that stuff. Like, I get it, but I'll tell you a funny story on that, and then I'll get back to the concert. So years ago, a guy calls and he says, hey, I heard that the TinCaps in their team store have a shirt that says Stay Classy San Diego, because that's our affiliate. Sure. And if anybody's seen Anchorman, I guess that was Will Ferrell's tagline in the thing. Oh, geez. And so they're like, yeah. And the guy says, hey, we just want everybody to be honest in this. Let's talk about this. How many do you guys have? I don't remember whether there was 144 or 288. It wasn't thousands. It was like, let's get this and see. Well, it took off. And in social media, you can't hide anything anymore. Right. Not that we had no intention of hiding it, you know. Sure. And it was like, hey, we have to send a cease and desist because that's trademarked by the motion picture, by all this stuff. And then somebody reached out and they're like, hey, sell through what you have. Just give us your word. You're not going to reorder. Right. Like, they didn't want to hurt us. And then the guy was like, and then one special thing, if you don't mind. And I said, yeah, what can I do? Because he was cool with us, and he's like, I'm a 2X, and my boss is an XL. Can you send something? We think these are the greatest T-shirts we've ever seen. And I'm like, yeah,
but don't ever make it.
Mike hooked them up, man. That's
beautiful.
That's what's great about this, man. Is the stories.
You talk about like last Sunday night. Tatis is on. They got the open mic thing.
I was watching
and they're starting to ask him stuff about Anchorman. He said he didn't even watch the movie.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, I said stay classy, San Diego. And
60%,
the 60% line, and he goes, I don't know,
sorry,
it's funny.
I'll come watch it.
Yeah.
So go back to Bert.
So we sold the 8,800 tickets in a couple days. He was absolutely incredible for us to work with. They were in Traverse City.
Was he drunk when he got there?
No. He might have been when he left.
Yes.
They were in Traverse City the night before and then came down. They were on the lake. They were fishing. They were doing it all. And then we had a blast. We were 8,800. He wanted to come up to the shop, and it was like, hey, man, can I come up to the shop? And it's like, yeah, of course, you know. And a lot of times you just give those guys the stuff. They're the headliner. He insisted on paying, which was cool. We gave it to him at cost. Like, we didn't want to make any money off of him. He was incredible, like walking around in the team store. He comes around and he sees that Manzana's Luchadores for our Hispanic heritage. Yeah. This is the greatest thing, you know. And then he's looking at the TinCaps, and we're telling him, he's like, I got to be honest, in different language maybe, what the heck is a TinCap? And I told him, hey, Johnny Chapman, and people in his party are like, that dude was real? And I'm like, yeah. And I always tell people, even though he's claimed by 6 Midwest cities as his burial ground, I'm here to tell you this is the one, you know. And they're all getting into it. And then he turns the corner, and he sees the Tenderloins hat. Yeah. And he's like, my gosh. And he just sat there, and I'm thinking, what's going on? That might be the single greatest hat I've ever seen in my entire life. He told me that night he had like 300, I think he said, fitted. So here's the best part. He says, Mike, you cool if I get one of these? I said, man, you got run of the place. You can get whatever you want. Looking through, and then he just starts yelling, like in character. We got a problem, and we got a major problem. Whoever's ordering stuff for the TinCaps doesn't realize that the headliner wears a size 8. And so we didn't have a size 8 Tenderloins. They had sold, and so we had a show. It was a blast. It was unbelievable. People were drinking their cold beverages that night at a rapid rate and having a blast, making sure everybody got out of there safely and securely, and it was just an absolute awesome show. A couple weeks after, I come walking in on a Monday morning. No, I was off Monday doing something with the kids, and then I came in on Tuesday, and this guy's walking by, and there's got to be the biggest dolly we have, 8 feet long, 4 feet wide. And I mean, boxes stacked to 6 feet in height. And I said to the guy, what in the world is that? And he said, man, you wouldn't believe. And I said, I mean, what?
Try me.
What? Yeah, he says, well, Bert Kreischer went live from Bourbon Street the other night after a show, walking down Bourbon Street, just hammering back, 20, 30-ounce beers, wearing the Manzanas Luchadoras, the Fighting Apples hat.
Let's go.
And it was like, there's 40 boxes on this cart. There's 40 boxes on this cart, and we're sending them to 15 states.
Let's go.
And all this
What
stuff.
a payday.
Yeah, it was funny. I looked at the intern, and I said, now you know why we gave them to him at a discount? And then, sure enough, a week later, sure as I'm sitting here, he threw on another one. It was like the July 4th or something else.
Let's go.
And I'm like, somebody's got to get a hold of his publicist. Send him every tenderloins thing we've got, man. And so it's just cool. His people, like a lot of pop culture stuff, his people are just into it, and it's funny.
His
so
wife controls him, right?
his wife it was the super nicest lady you could ever meet, but she's around, and I mean it all positively and with respect, but she's around. I mean, and
She's
so
the boss.
yeah, and so after the show, they were having fun up on people that had been to the ballpark on the suite level. There's that Jay Chapman's Loft. That's where they did for like their post-show stuff and eating and drinking throughout the day. And, those guys, I mean, they're comedians. They're on a national tour. They're doing like 6 days in a row and then a week off, then 6 days and that kind of stuff. And they're having fun. And they said at some point either Mama or somebody else came up there and said, it's time to get in the bus. We got a call in St. Louis tomorrow at, 9 a.m. And it's like a couple more. Well, whoever spoke up at that point, everybody got in the bus in a few minutes.
Yeah.
So we all need somebody like that in our life telling us where to be and when.
Coming up on 25 years with the TinCaps. What's next for Mike Nutter? I mean,
I think
what
this
do you
is
foresee? I mean, is this what you just passionately love?
Yeah, man.
I mean,
You can tell.
Yeah, so my wife's a Warsaw native, best the best. I mean, the reality is when you're in jobs like some of us have or have had,
Sure.
They're doing a lot more than just, everything at times. And so we love it. We absolutely love it here. We moved so much. We talked about that before. Some of those moves were tough. We always said that we were never going to move. Not that I even wanted to, but at least until the kids got out of high school and into college. And that's next week. But I'm not looking to go anywhere. Beth's parents are both still alive in Warsaw. Her siblings and all of our nieces and nephews are over there. And so someday, Mama will want to get to a place that's warmer, and I'll feel the same way. But
It's not time.
It's not time, and I just love it here. And we joke with people. When I moved here from Nashville, Tennessee in October of '99, I think within within a couple months, Fort Wayne was called the dumbest city in America and the fattest or most overweight city in America. And I'm thinking, how did people know I moved here? And it was like, but my thing was like, none of that was true then.
No.
But it's always been a great place. I mean, you guys grew up here, and
Yes.
it's like,
Yes, you know what's
but
funny?
now we have that swagger back where like
We
my
do.
kids come in back
We
from
do.
school and they're like, what's that new spot? Oh, look at the electric works. And it's
That's
like,
right.
and they're going, hey, I could see living here. And that was that buzzword of brain drain where it
always
was
tell
like
these
kids
young
got
kids,
out and they wanted to leave.
everybody wants to get away. Then they all come back.
Get it out of your head because you're going to be right back here.
You'll
'cause
be
you're gonna
right back.
see where you was and what we have.
Yeah,
Fort Wayne's
it's hard to
the
beat,
greatest.
man.
Yeah.
The cost of living, the great schools. If
We're
you
not
want
too
to talk
big,
about
we're
your
not too
faith,
small.
exactly right. The entertainment, the sports, it's awesome.
All the fun, all the success. Was there ever a tough moment?
Oh,
A moment where you were
yeah,
just
man.
like, oh, man, I mean, this is going to be tough to show up tomorrow, or how do I overcome this, or how do we work around this problem, or
Yeah.
what's the adversity that you guys have
So
felt and dealt with,
very
Mike?
hardest thing at work and at home at the same time. So like there's still drama at work, there's still drama at home, but like usually I always said one you could always count on. If the other one was a little tough, I screwed something up at home, I knew I could just throw myself into work and I'd be fine until I smoothed that out, or vice versa. But, it's not like some rocket science thing. But the biggest stuff for us was COVID. So we lost the entire
Fascinating.
season. We didn't play for a year. And we always, I don't think I'm a control freak, but I'm a detail guy and I'm an accountability guy. So like,
it was just such a weird time, wasn't it? Didn't you feel like everybody felt like they were just totally off kilter?
and like, I'm not good with, I mean, I'm good saying I was wrong. I'm good saying I don't know, but like, we didn't know what to tell people. Like, I remember to a Wednesday in
Fascinating.
March of 2020 where it was like, we told the whole staff, we brought everybody together up in the suites, and we're like, hey, we got to get some work done Thursday and Friday, and then starting Monday, we're going to be off. And I don't know if we're going to be off a few weeks or maybe a month or two. And a couple guys laughed, and they're like, a month or two? Like, no, it was early, so nobody had any idea.
The
Well, we end up
uncertainty.
furloughing 31 out of 35 people of one of the most successful teams. I don't mind talking about it. My daughter and I talk about things publicly while that's going on. She was a 2-time state championship cheerleader, just beautiful, smart, funny, one of the most talented people I've ever met. Developed a raging eating disorder during the pandemic.
Oh, there's so many stories.
Yeah.
Mike, there's so many stories because you know what? As human beings, it's not normal for us to be locked
We
in a
need
room.
community, man.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ken,
Yeah.
you get me all pissed off all over again.
No, and I don't mean, but like we lived it,
was
and so
freaking
Caitlin
pandemic.
moved out of the house twice. She went to one of 2 faith-based eating disorder clinics in the United States, is in Anderson, Indiana. She went to another one in Naperville, Illinois, for months. Fellas, as we're recording this Sunday, I'm driving her down to Bloomington. She has battled as hard as any of those kids I've ever coached. We're so proud of her.
Absolutely.
But we've taken
Yes.
it,
Good.
not
God
making
bless
it
her.
about
So
it.
you know
Thank
what?
you.
You know what?
But it's like
God
the mental
bless
health
you.
and physical stuff is real. So
it's real, and it all came out in that. I mean, I saw it in the CPA firm. I had people that were so frightened and so scared that they were wearing gloves and sliding papers under the door.
Yeah.
I had a lady spraying the papers.
I
mean,
can
there was.
just-
Remember that,
I mean,
though?
yeah.
Be careful about your mail. And like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to.
I know, but you know what though? But so many people being locked down and being isolated.
Well, I mean,
It's
it's like
devastating.
It's like Mike talking about, his staff. For me as a coach, to be told you're not going to have a season and having to face
He's
for
in
the
my-
last
seniors.
time.
He's in my office. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is complete bullshit, man.
Yeah, but
And he's like, Dave, they're going to do it. I
Yeah.
go, no.
and I
I
can
mean,
just remember having to have that
kids-
conversation with those guys on a Friday and go, fellas, it's done. It's
can
done
be
for now.
outside.
And I'll tell you,
Yeah, and we just had outdoor
Yeah.
open field on the Thursday before.
Yeah.
And then my guys, they were still practicing out
Yeah,
at
on
Wallen.
their own.
People were driving by
because you
they're like,
want
"There's
because
some-"
you hope that
Yeah.
maybe somebody would turn
Maybe it'll
around.
come back.
But
I tell you-
to have that conversation with Manuel Lopez, and tell him, hey, it's because he called me, goes, Coach, what do you think? I said, I think it's time to put it away for a while.
I'll tell you what, on the
you
firm.
talk about the people spraying stuff. I saw this lady at the bank, and she's spraying the screen outside.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, lady, last week you wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
But this week you got to spray the screen.
I tell you what, Mike, and I'm a CPA.
Yeah.
And I call my phone, the bat phone. It's like red and it lights up. I was literally sitting over there at night getting phone calls from all my clients that were widows that were boxed in.
Yeah.
Jai just, asking about my stuff. Oh, your stuff's fine. It'll get done. Are you okay? It's just been really tough to be here. I'm by myself. Nobody comes.
People
So I
can't
was
come
sitting there
see 'em
talking.
at
a
I was talking on
senior
the
home?
phone. I was talking on the phone to my
Right.
clients 4, 5, 6 hours a night
Yeah.
because people were just. So God bless your daughter overcoming
Absolutely.
that. But then, so you're
You
deep
went in-
into the pandemic. So how
Did you
at
go
some
in
point?
every day?
Yeah, at some point, how did you when did that fog lift, or what was your schedule every day? Did you just keep to it and hope that at some point it
A
would?
lot of that keep to it. I mean, like when Caitlin was really battling and at our worst at home, not her at her worst, I don't mean like that, but when we were hurting the most as at work or at home, I'd stick around, but I hate to say it, but we talked about Keith Winter before. With Keith and I joke, he's had like the same lunch for 25 years in a row or something like that.
I believe
like
that.
we're routine
We
guys.
are routine.
And you feel like that leads to some of the success and people know what to expect, but you just didn't know, man, because it was like that was so heavy at home. And not that you're trying to run from it. Nobody that's a parent feels that way. But like, man, if I can just get away, and then you're going in there and the season's canceled and somebody's texting you on staff going, hey, do you think I should just get a job somewhere else? And it's
Yeah,
like,
or what do I do?
man, I think you need to do what's best for you. But
Yeah,
the
it's
owner
crazy.
has said when we come back, he's not getting rid of any. And so It's just some of us
Keith
aren't
was the only one who was covered on a job.
Now, when did
I
it
shouldn't say, but Keith probably he didn't like COVID, but he was happy because nobody was out on his
Don't
field.
touch my field.
when
No
did it
seeds.
when it kind of lifted and you got back? When did you guys feel like you kind of okay? We're gonna be okay. We've recovered from
Great
that.
question.
Was there a point where you were like, okay, we're back on track? Because I asked a lot of my businesses that. Denise and I would talk to a lot of our businesses, and it's like it's taken years for some businesses to bounce back.
So 20 we were canceled. 21 we came back, and I don't mean to make light of it, but when we look back at photos now, it was every third row you could sit in and that kind of stuff. And again,
My son played for St. Francis.
Yeah.
And St. Francis played Marion that year. And we had to have spaces between the seats.
and
so did you?
As
Were
a
you?
family, you
But
could sit
Mike,
together.
By
did
the
you,
end of
did you feel
21, we were like,
anxiety? Did
oh.
you feel any anxiety? Like, oh my gosh, this might not come back. What we built.
For 21, we did. And so people have asked us all the time. We talked before, as we're talking now, starting tonight, we were up a game and a half or so, and attendance has been back. And so people have said to us, what's your goal this year? It's not really a number as much as people's behaviors in COVID changed. Whatever that means. Where they eat, how they shop, do they go to movies? But ballparks are in that. And so our thing was, could we get back to pre-COVID levels of somebody's looking for something to do on a Thursday and they want to watch fireworks and drink some $2 beers? Are they coming out?
So that was your goal
for this year, where get it back, and it's in numbers. Baseball is a numbers game, but it's also financial numbers, but then some of it is just gut feel. And when you see, I haven't told this number to anybody, but when you see for the 4 nights of the Tenderloins, we sold 1,900 tenderloin
That was
sandwiches,
fantastic,
and you're
brother.
like,
Crazy.
I don't
Let's
know what
go.
we expected, but we didn't expect that because you're just like
brilliant.
and people are walking around
wanting
wearing the
tenderloin
gear.
right now.
Just brilliant, just
Next time
brilliant.
you guys have me on, I'll bring 4 and we'll just eat them on air, and we'll
Now-
get our
Really
man
craving
back
one
here
right
some.
now.
So now we feel like, man, they didn't forget about us. Behaviors change, but you know what?
We've
if
overcome.
you still give a good night of family
Absolutely.
entertainment for an affordable ticket, still start at $7, they're going to come out.
It's still the spot to go to. I'm telling you right now, I've been down there about 4 or 5 times this year. I'd love to go down more, but it's just
How many
it's
years
just,
have we won it, Best Stadium?
Like 6 or 7
6
out of the last
consecutive.
8. Yeah.
Mike, let me ask you this: do you like the new schedule though? With six, I guess that's the big thing.
2 answers. One, to play a team 6 times in a row can get problematic.
Sure.
There's a league in the country that's also high A up in the northwest part of our country. Think Vancouver, Hillsborough, Washington, Eugene, Oregon. There's only 6 teams in the league.
That's tough.
So there's 3 umpire crews.
that work all.
For the whole thing.
So Major League
boy.
Baseball, give them credit where it's due. A few weeks ago, they took the 3 crews in that league and switched them with 3 of ours.
okay.
Because, even if you're great, they said somebody had somebody 24 out of 36 games. The 6 games, as a staff, we've come to hey, you start on a Tuesday, you end on a Sunday, you're good. The ones that hit us, man, Coach, two home stands in a row.
Yeah.
12 home games out of 13. But you know what? The pitch clock, we opened Parkview Field, the average game time, 2 hours, 44 minutes.
Wow,
okay?
That's moving.
The first year of Parkview Field. The last year before
Now
the
the
pitch
pitch
clock,
clock.
3:24.
Wow.
40 minutes. I am the
What
biggest.
do you attest that
They
to?
just the guys stepping out,
Yep.
pitchers
Just
throwing
that way,
over
yeah.
4 times,
Doing
and the
all
guys
this.
leads
Yeah.
this far. You guys are going to interview a ton of people. I'm honored to be guests on show 22, but I'm the biggest college football fan around. And
Let's
I'm
go, baby.
I'm reading stuff about now where they're looking at it going, we got to take. You get the national TV game. You're a Notre Dame guy. You're a Buckeye guy like I am. If it's an 8 o'clock kick, you're midnight
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
none of us mind because it's less games, but for baseball,
You can't
we
have
were
it.
a generation away from. Okay,
Losing.
it's one thing in the playoffs, but the Yankees and Red Sox are playing a 4-hour
Yes.
game in May. It's just like, man, I got to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
So the pitch clock and stuff we've loved. It's helped mitigate
Yes.
the 6-game homestands because you feel like you're saving 45
Yeah,
minutes.
I love it.
I love
The
it.
game
I
is
love it.
great.
I didn't-
It's
I
just
was
a great
against it,
game.
but I
more
love it now.
condensed.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Hey, before we get to the question here, Hunter Sosenheimer just texted in. He goes, "Great show tonight, fellas. Glad you got him on. Love the content. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, Hunter.
Hunter.
Sounds
Shouts
like Hunter's
out.
due for another 50-cent raise.
Let's go, baby. Hunter won that beautiful bat.
He
Didn't
did.
We
It
love
was an
Hunter.
honor to hand it to him.
See you, Hunter.
Yeah, we do see you, Hunter. Thanks for everything you do. He's in a tough spot. Not a tough spot. He does a great job with it. He gets to, so we talked about the 6 games.
Yeah.
So we've got the Dayton Dragons coming in next week with our good buddy Hayden Jones
Hayden
is coming
Jones,
back.
yep.
Yeah.
So, last week we had the Dodgers and the dreaded Dodgers and the Great Lakes Loons. Well, Hunter, and you guys know, but he takes care of them and he does all the stuff and he does all the running around. They love him. He's so
great.
good at
Yeah.
what he does. And,
He's a winner.
maybe someday Hunter
He's
and
been down
Sam Lewis will
He's
be in the
pa-
big
you know,
leagues.
I
it's-
know.
it's-
You know what?
It's passion.
Absolutely. He's a winner.
He's got great passion.
Yeah,
great
now-
passion.
What did it mean to you last year when you got minor league executive?
It was
of the year?
cool. All kidding. So
And
I know we
can't
got
believe that's your only.
That's
your
out of
first.
like 120 organizations.
120 teams.
Got to brag a little
It's
bit about
the
you. That's
third
a
year
big
they've done
deal.
it.
I can't believe that's only your first after we, especially when we won.
So Mama and Caitlin go out with me because of winter meetings last year in San Diego. I have no idea that I'm winning it. And I have no idea that I'm
Really?
up,
No
I have
idea.
no idea that I'm up for it. And my wife, she'll love hearing this when we play this back. She's like, we don't need to go to this, do we? I mean, maybe Caitlin and I'll just stay in the room in our jammies because of the times change and whatever. And she's friends with a lot of my buddies because this is all I've ever done. And sometimes they'll come and stay at the house and stuff because we're real friends. And so anyway, I'm sitting there talking to a guy with the Kansas City Royals, just like Coach and I are sitting next to each other. And we met that night. And he's like, are you guys up for anything? And we were up for a team award earlier in the night, and we didn't win it. And he said, what about you? And I said, no. And then they do the thing, and they're like, now it's time to present the executive of the year. And they read off what seems like 5 or 6 names. And the guy's like, I thought you weren't up for anything. And I looked at him, and I'm like, I didn't know that I was. And he's like, good luck, man. I hope you win it. I said, bro, they got to tell you ahead of time. They can't expect you to, just
wing
wing
this,
it.
right?
Wing it, right?
Yeah.
Sure enough, as I'm sitting here, and the night's winner from Fort Wayne,
Yeah,
the
baby.
TinCaps, Mike Nutter. The guy looks at me. I've known this guy for 10 minutes of my life. He goes, you got 30 seconds to figure out what to tell 400 people. Good luck. So I actually went up there.
Wow.
I deferred, to the other people in the room that probably were as more deserving or equally as deserving. And then I did a brief shout out of just, we've got 120 cities represented from all around the country. In our cities, we are the Cubs and the Guardians and the Reds and the White Sox and the Cardinals and Tigers and stuff. We can go back and we can make an impact on the mental health because we've got an opportunity and a calling, because I had seen what it did to our family and stuff. And so
It's a great
a lot
message.
more
That's
teams are
beautiful.
doing strike out the stigma and some mental health stuff. And the coolest thing is we've got players coming up to us for the night saying, can I do a video? Can I be a part of that? Because I lost my way and that kind of stuff. So it's neat. More and more people, when we were coming up, and Joe, I know how you were on the football field. It's like way back then, if somebody did something, maybe they were soft or whatever.
Yeah, it was preached when I came up, and I always tell myself I'm going to operate from strength. I'm going to be strong. But you know what? Times change.
Right.
And also, there's so much more stuff out there that I think people deal with.
Right.
And I think as much as Dave and I hated COVID and we hated the lockdown and everything, I think a lot of us
an
learn.
understatement.
That's an understatement. I know. I think a lot of us learned a little more empathy and
Yeah.
compassion
Me
because
too.
we realized how much we need each other and really how fragile those social relationships are.
Yeah.
So
Well said.
I think you're so right about that with your lovely daughter, because there were so many people that were impacted like that. And to get I tell you what, hats off to you. To get an award like that, I would have been tempted to go up there and beat my chest and bark a little bit. The executive of
I
the
was
year, I
in
have
shock.
120. I would have been like, but what he did was
I was worried I had buffalo sauce on my
I
cheek
got to
from
get
the
off
wings
this
I was
stage
eating.
as fast as I can.
buffalo sauce. But you know what you did? You took it and you highlighted something that I think is so important in our society. And what people don't realize is I was close with a Chicago councilman who told me, Joe, you don't understand. Half the guys that are locked up in the penitentiary have mental health problems.
Yeah.
So I think that's beautiful. And I think that's
Thanks,
something
man.
that you took a really dear moment for yourself, man, and you're able to make it so beautiful for our community, man.
Thank
And you know
you.
what? And I'm gonna tell you something else. From everybody from the 260, we're proud of you, brother.
Thanks,
and you know what?
man.
And we're proud of the TinCaps. And you know what, man? I just
Let's
get a
win this year.
I just
Yeah,
get,
I hear
just,
that.
I just before we're going to get into the rapid fire questions. Sonar's lovely wife came up with a segment where we're going to ask you some quick
Cool.
questions. But you know what, man? I just admire the energy and just to me, just the rawness and the ability to get up every day and have an idea. And that's from one businessman
Thank
to another,
you.
man.
Thank you very much. I'm 50 and I've never had a cup of coffee.
That's
crazy.
unbelievable, man. I mean, they can put you on the cover of Red
Hey,
Bull, man. You know,
I've never
I
had
tell you what,
I'm afraid
that's
what
a-
would happen, brother.
Let's go, man.
I've
That's,
never had
hey,
it. Me
that's
neither.
natural, baby.
I've
Tell
never
him,
had a
Dave.
cup of coffee.
That's
in my life.
fantastic.
Ever.
Dave, you want to start?
I'd be bouncing off
with,
the walls.
You want to start with rapid fire, Brummy? If you want to add something, in, feel free, brother.
Yeah.
If you could meet someone past or present, and you just said it, have a cup of coffee with, we'll say a water, who would it be?
Man, you know, the guy I liked as a baseball player as a kid growing up, the guy that I loved, Griffey I loved, but before that was Ricky Henderson.
Oh man, he was
Ricky be Ricky.
He used to always talk to himself
Always
too.
talking to himself and that swagger and all that kind of stuff. I would love to
stealing.
just sit there and talk about
It's a great one.
the impact and how you could change a game. And a buddy of
Sure.
mine played with Ricky.
No one will beat him.
No.
He'll never be
No.
broken.
No way. And the leadoff homers and the steals. And again, not a whole lot of humility. You know, the night he breaks the record, he holds the base
Yep.
up. I am now the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
And then the man above has a way of humbling all of us. That same night, Nolan Ryan threw like his fifth or sixth
Yes.
no-hitter to take the front
And
page.
Lou Brock was on the field.
Yeah, and you're like,
I know Lou Brock was right there,
yeah,
right?
Have a little humility. But how did he bring that that drive?
Who was the
Yeah.
one that had to wear the helmet on the field? First
John
base.
Olerud.
Olerud.
There's that one with, he goes, I played with Ricky 2 places. Third place they're playing, he goes, we're sitting on a bench, and he goes, Ricky looks at him, he goes, I used to play with a guy who had to wear a helmet just like that. Olerud goes, Ricky, that was me.
Yeah. There's only 25 in the locker room and on the plane. Like,
Now I got to ask real quick
Ricky
since
be
we're on
Ricky.
since we talking about Ricky Henderson. We kind of mentioned him earlier. I told you the story how I had a buddy that mistaken him for Bruce Jenner before Bruce had all of his work
no,
done.
Big
But
Pete.
Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame or not? You two?
Yes.
yeah, for me.
Yeah.
100%.
Now, I've walked by every day I've ever been
100%.
in a ballpark that rule at the same
Yeah,
time.
sure.
It's
at the
posted.
same time. Man, it just, I don't know him.
How
I've met
big
him.
would it be, Mike, if they showed some compassion and said tonight, some night in July or August, we're gonna have a celebration,
Right.
And we're gonna have a celebration of greatness, and we're gonna have Pete Rose go in the Hall of
I
Fame.
mean, he's in the Reds Hall. They
Yeah.
brought him back for the 50th or 100th anniversary
Right.
team, those kinds
100.
of things. And it just, I hope they don't
His
put him
number-
in
his-
after he's passed.
that's the thing.
Yeah, like if you're not going to put him in, then obviously my vote doesn't matter. Then don't put him in, but don't do it a couple years after he
his
goes.
numbers don't lie.
No.
They don't lie.
And who knows what he did?
And by the way,
But his
all those
competitive
guys
drive.
they had buckets of pills,
Oh,
and they just walking. It's like Skittles.
I knew guys way back in the day that they left at the end of one season, and the next year they came back looking like the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
You know,
I know.
it was funny. I was watching
Remember
ML
Dante. Remember
Yeah.
Dante Bichetti
I was
came back
wa-
with 22-inch arms. It was like, what the?
I was watching MLB Network earlier this year, and it was
Yeah.
Bob Costas with some snark. He got done doing a segment on Rose, and he's like, and now we'll go to commercial, and this is brought to you by DraftKings. You know, and so, you know, with Pete's
Yeah.
competitive fire, did
That's
he ever
what it
bet
was. He was
against
kinda-
the Reds? Man, I hope not. I hope he
I
didn't
think you know what I
bet-
think he was doing. I think he was betting with his guys. 'Cause you
Yeah.
know how
Yeah.
he was. I mean,
Yeah.
he was just.
He's-
I know. I hope we
He's
can move past
100%
it.
big red machine.
Yeah,
He
for
is.
sure.
Yeah, he is. Now, got a question for you. What's something about you that people would be surprised to know?
Wow. You know what?
Because you got so much energy, so much enthusiasm.
So this is not energy or enthusiasm, but around our house, when my daughter was going through some treatments, and just at different times, this is the most random thing I can tell somebody, is we like to do puzzles the size of this
You're
table.
kidding me.
No, I mean like the
You
hardest
got the-
ones.
How do you sit down with all
put
your
the puzzle.
energy
You know what, man?
No way. You
Yeah,
don't
man.
do a puzzle.
Yeah, man.
Get out of here.
It is
You
that
do
competitive thing. Like
a puzzle for
I
Mike Nutter?
gotta do 100 pieces tonight, or I can't go to bed.
No way.
Oh, I'm not telling you it's channeled properly. I'm just telling you something weird that people wouldn't know.
It's not channeled properly.
Matt Joe, look at his chair. It's just shaking. I can
Oh,
see
yeah.
when a puzzle gets
Fantastic, man.
Yeah, like that old Operation game as a kid. I got buzzed again.
What song do you sing along to when it comes on? Are you driving down the road? Is there something that comes
So,
on
listen,
that you just turn
fellas,
up and you're
I
like,
cover it all. So yesterday I was texting with the manager, and I texted him a link to "Simple Man" by Leonard Skinner. That's in my morning jog routine.
Yeah, baby, let's go.
And but it's anything from country. So let's talk about concerts.
Yeah.
The very first concert I ever saw was Aerosmith and Skid Row at the Cow Palace in San Francisco.
Wow. Let's go,
I've
baby.
seen Ice Cube, Public Enemy,
Public
Garth
Enemy.
Brooks, every genre.
You've covered it.
I just love seeing the live music. I went to Taylor Swift this summer. It was our daughter's gift for getting through the treatment.
Really?
The
That's
one that I
beautiful.
didn't go into, but I just 3-4 weeks ago, July 5th, I drove 6 young men and women up to the United Center to see Drake and 21 Savage. Now, I didn't go into that one. They're like, Mr. Nutter, just go in. Just
Mr.
have fun.
Nutter,
just go in.
go.
And I'm like, you know what? Let's go.
I'm
Let's
the
do
Uber.
this. I go on StubHub 20 minutes before the show to get into the arena. The cheapest was $289. I said,
doing
I'll tell you what, guys, I'm going to go catch a couple innings of the White Sox. I'll pick you up after. White Sox got rained out.
Yeah, of course.
So, what's your favorite restaurant in the Fort?
I absolutely love the first 2 that come to mind would be Nawa downtown. I love Asian food. It's some of my favorite stuff. And then Cata Blue I like a lot.
Yep,
They're
Cata
on Covington. Is it Covington or whatever it'd be?
Yeah,
Jefferson on that
yeah,
front
some
out
great
there.
seafood.
Yep.
I love going up to Fabini's place, the
Yeah,
Black
like
Canyon.
Black
Canyon.
It's been he's the number one answer.
Yeah, I believe it.
People love
the only
that.
reason it wasn't the first thing I thought of is I gotta take about 25 minutes to get up there, and
What's your favorite Mexican?
ooh, that's a good question. I like that Mercado down on the landing. I don't think you can go wrong with cebollas and salsa grill. You know, like a little less fancy. And then the one, actually, a guy with the TinCaps from last year. He may pitch in the big leagues. His family owns that Mi Pueblo on Jefferson.
Yeah,
so
Mi Pueblo.
he played.
Wow.
He played for us a couple years ago, and then he met a girl in Fort Wayne. They got married. They have a child. He's on the 40-man roster for the Padres. He's got a chance to pitch in the big leagues this year or next
Wow.
year.
Wow.
And when he comes back in the offseason, he'll be in there bussing tables and that kind of stuff.
Love it.
So
And it's
awesome.
absolutely awesome. So a lot of the answers are we just love to support people that we know, and a lot more of the hometown stuff. And nothing against the chains, of course, but the small businesses that like we are.
Last question. I want you to look in that camera. To everybody out there watching, talk about kids out there or young men that are chasing that sports management degree. Tell them what that meant to you, the doors that it opened up to you, Mike, and the journey that Mike Nutter has had throughout the minor league experience all the way up to the executive of the year.
That's awesome, man. You know, got in at 18, 19, so I'm 50, and this is my 32nd year in pro ball, and I don't have 32 more in me, but I love it as much as ever and have a passion for it as much as ever. For me, it's allowed me to meet so many great people, meet my wife. I tell people, anybody listening, anybody that sees this, you can get me at nutter@tincaps.com. Come in and shadow. I'm the son of a guidance counselor, my mom. So, like, it's not one of those, you know, people say, I want to come shadow you for 8 hours. Well, that ain't happening. But what we can do is...
Actually, it'd be fun, man.
Yeah.
I think Sonar and Mike and I could do some podcasts.
Oh, no
and
doubt.
We could shadow a little bit, Sonar.
Yeah.
We have a real good time.
But I'll tell them, you can get an hour with me. Not because I'm, like, too important, but, like,
No.
you don't, like, let me get you with our VP of sales, and let me get you
Sure,
over in accounting,
sure.
and let me get you in here and there. It's 31 full-time people year-round, and... it's wedding receptions and reunions and stuff for the non-baseball division, and it's so much. And maybe it's not a pro team, but it's a college team or a municipality.
Sure.
It's coaching. They want to go back and get their masters to be an athletic director at the collegiate level or an associate AD. There's so many doors and opportunities. You guys are proof with this podcast and with the show. But sports in our country is so prominent. Sometimes it feels like it's a bit much at times, even for somebody in it. But for the young guy, and for now, it's never been a better opportunity for young women,
Yes.
for minorities. Again,
Yes.
there's still a seat at the table for the
Everybody.
Caucasian male like that I am. But so many of our team front offices have gotten better, and we still have a little ways to go, of reflecting the communities that we're in a little better. And so if you can speak Spanish, if you can do some of that stuff, like, it is huge in sports now. And I got an email today that I replied to of a young man. My son used to battle him on the baseball field on the summer, the travel schedule. And he said, "Hey, I'm up here at Hillsdale, and I'm in data and analytics. Can you help?"
Wow.
And we actually may do our first intern in that for us of looking at all ticket data. I'm guessing he wanted a little more of like the Moneyball, the Major League.
Right. Yeah.
And the Major League teams are all doing that with interns
Oh, yeah.
and stuff like that. The
Fascinating.
video stuff is
Yeah.
gotten crazy. So to the young men and women out there chasing the dream, man, they looked at me at Bowling Green State University and said, if you get into this field, the people to your right and left are probably going to work less, and maybe they're going to make more money. And I looked at a buddy and said, what are we doing in here then? But we had a passion for it.
Yes.
The money's there. There's opportunity all around the country. If you want to be that person that gets out, you're from the Summit City, you want to move, cool, go down to Indy, go down to Nashville for a few summers, work for the team there, and then come back to the Fort Wayne area, Northeast Indiana, where the quality of life is so good,
Number one.
the impact that you can have in the community is so good, and come back home and put those skills to a test at the Comets, the Caps, any of the college teams, any of the travel things, any of that.
And that's why we're so blessed in the Fort is A, the Comets, and B, the TinCaps. We are so blessed.
Absolutely.
And we are blessed to have the great Mike Nutter.
Yes, sir.
Brother,
Thanks, fellas.
thanks for coming on.
This was awesome.
Yeah, man.
That was enjoyable.
Yep.
A journey of minor league baseball, Brummy.
Yeah.
Podcast number 22. A name that will always be spoken with pride in the 260.
So we've had
Mike
Frankie
Nutter.
Pena, Frankie
Yep.
Pena, and now Honor Sosenheimer.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now the main man.
Yes, absolutely.
Head of the complaint department,
Absolutely.
Mike Nutter.
Thank you again, Dave, for booking the great guest. Brummy, thank you always
sir.
for all your
Yeah,
insight.
man.
Sonar, the ability to make this all go. Appreciate you. Denise with the wonderful outlines. Logan, keep working on that basketball game, baby. Ryan, Preston, getting ready to go back to school. Appreciate you. Again, a name spoken with pride in the 260, Mike Nutter.
Well done.
And we are the 260.
Great show.
It's the 260 Podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m., highlighting all Indiana sports, featuring guests from the 260 area code and beyond. Live on YouTube every Thursday at 7 p.m. Just search the 260, also available anywhere you find your podcasts. And remember, when searching, there are no zeros in the 260. It's the 260 Podcast, live from Spiece Fieldhouse every Thursday at 7 p.m.